Imagine wandering through the great museums of the world and noticing a tiny detail that somehow survived thousands of years of artistic evolution. Statues of pharaohs, Olympian gods, Roman emperors, Renaissance saints, figures separated by continents and centuries, quietly sharing the same anatomical oddity, a deliberate space between the first and second toes. It's so subtle you could miss it, yet so persistent in the artwork that it begins to feel like a hidden code left in plain sight. Now consider this. What if that small separation wasn't a stylistic quirk at all, but a visual signature, an artist's way of marking a figure whose inner current had ignited, whose body had shifted into a heightened state of vitality and awareness, a state described in ancient esoteric traditions as the great alchemical rebirth, the Kundalini awakening, the moment the immortal embryo is conceived within the bioelectrical nervous system. Across the ancient Mediterranean, artists seemed almost fixated on this subtle but telling detail of the foot. In Michelangelo's creation of Adam, both God and Adam extend their hands toward one another while their toes quietly part, as though Adam waits, fully receptive to God's spark of becoming. The same anatomical cue appears again and again in the marble heroes and gods of Greece and Rome. The forward striding kouros, the childlike hero with their open, energized toes. Apollo, the god of prophecy and light, his sandaled toes subtly parted, with his body poised in an effortless command. Hermes, with his sandaled foot revealing a deliberate cleft that hints at the wisdom of the human body, and the heroes Hercules and Perseus, whose statues so often show the big toe set distinctly apart, grounding them in a stance of receptivity to the gods, readiness for the work ahead, and a sovereign strength of body, mind, and spirit. Even Aphrodite, in her most famous Hellenistic and Roman forms, stands with subtly parted toes, her posture alive with the very current of eros that artists understood as her gift, the inner vitality that opens the body from within. And long before any of these, Egyptian temples bore carved impressions of divine feet with the same distinctive spacing, marks pressed into thresholds as if the gods themselves had stepped there, consecrating the work of those who built beneath their gaze, and perhaps confirming that an open nervous system is the very key to building the temple within. Seen through this energetic lens, that quiet gap between the toes begins to look less like an artistic habit and more like a faint echo of something mysterious, something vital humanity once understood about itself. It hints at a physiology tuned to a different register, a body whose currents are not constrained and collapsed inward, but free, rising, circulating, and awake. A body whose channels are not blocked by habit or fear, but open, receptive, responsive, and alive to its own inner charge. In the old mystery traditions, this was not fanciful poetry or purple prose. It was a map. They spoke of a force that travels upward from the hips and into the base of the spine, igniting the centres of the body one by one until it reaches the crown. They described the moment the inner eye opens, the moment the breath becomes invigorating, the moment the waters within the body begin to move in ways that ordinary language can barely touch. And when you look again at these statues, at their parted toes, their lifted arches, their poised and sovereign stance, it is as if the artists were trying to show us what a human being can attain when that ascent has already been achieved. It is not only a symbol of divinity imparted from above, but the imprint of a human who has remembered their own power from within. What modern anatomy confirms is that the feet are not merely passive supports, but dynamic regulators of the body's entire energetic architecture. More than a quarter of the body's bones sit below the ankle, along with a dense web of mechanoreceptors, proprioceptive nerves, and pressure-sensitive fascia that constantly receive and feed information back into the spine and brain. Traditional Chinese medicine maps this same intelligence through points like the Great Rushing or Tai Chong, a gateway for unblocking stagnant qi, the Governor of Tears or Dai Wu Hui, which opens emotional flow and restores clarity, and the Yong Quan, the gushing spring, the body's primary grounding point, where energy can be directed and stabilized through the earth. When the toes and feet are free, mobile, and able to articulate independently, they act like stabilizing antennae, helping to ground the creative energy that circulates through the body. In this sense, the open toes motif is a portrait of a body whose circuitry is functioning as intended, a body capable of receiving, conducting, and integrating its own internal voltage. As the old Taoist saying goes, there is gold in the feet, and modern anatomy quietly agrees, revealing that the true treasure of life is the shimmering electrical light of the nervous system itself. By contrast, the modern epidemic of bunions, the slow inward collapse of the big toe toward its neighbours, is a reminder of how far we've drifted from our original design. The ancients suffered bunions too, of course. Skeletal remains from Egypt, Greece, and Rome show clear deformities. This is another reason parted toe symbolism appears so frequently in Western art. It's not naive stylization. They are the opposite of bunion feet, a visual declaration of a nervous system that is open, uncompressed, and capable of circulating the creative force and transmitting it cleanly into the ground. And when heroes and gods are shown wearing sandals, the meaning deepens. The strap that passes between the big toe and the second toe preserves the natural gap, reinforcing the symbolism. In many cultures, the sandal was an emblem of civilization itself, a marker of progress, craft, and social order. Yet it also carries this subtler message that those who guide the direction of a culture must remain energetically free, mentally unbound, and spiritually upright. The parted toes of a sandal-wearing figure are not just a detail of dress. They are a signature of civilization and sovereignty. A reminder that leadership begins in the body's ability to stay open and free, rather than closed and folded inward. And this is, perhaps, the real secret tucked inside all those statues. A tiny anatomical flourish that behaves like a subtle wink across time. Whether the artists meant it consciously or simply inherited the instinct from older hands, they left us a breadcrumb trail. A little rebellion carved into marble and brushed into fresco and canvas. A reminder that the human being was never meant to shuffle through life with this energy folded in on itself. Once you notice it, that small gap between the toes stops looking decorative and starts looking revolutionary. It's the stance of someone who has slipped the chains, shaken off the bindings, and remembered how to stand independently. It's the posture of a nervous system that refuses to collapse, a mind that refuses to bow, a spirit that refuses to be domesticated. It is a body that says, I am not property, I am not a machine, and I am not asleep. In the long story of civilization, this little anatomical signature becomes a symbol of progress. Not the kind measured in empires or monuments, but the quieter, more radical progress of an individual and a species learning to free its own energy. The parted toes are a tiny architectural triumph of the human form, a gesture toward ingenuity, self-direction, and the possibility of living unbound. They whisper that the awakened human is not the one who breaks or surrenders, but the one who steps forward with their whole being intact, grounded, alive, and impossible to enslave.